So welcome, our remarkable colleague, Natasha. We so appreciate your consistent leadership and solidarity. And as always at Setsi, we begin all things by acknowledging our creator, by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We acknowledge all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So Natasha, can you please share a little bit about your work and your remarkable background with our listeners and our viewers?
Hi, thank you so much for having me here today, Victor. Let's see, I am a serial social entrepreneur. So I have started and exited two different social enterprises, the most recent one just a few months ago, last month actually. And I have been teaching as well. I'm teaching a course on social entrepreneurship in the global economy at University of Toronto's Monk School, and currently trying to figure out what my next venture will be.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for your leadership and all the work that you're doing for so many. I'm a huge fan of the work that you've been doing. So once again, I appreciate your leadership. So now my next question is, what's inspiring you right now? What has you curious? I know we were talking before about social acquisitions and different and fund development, but what's inspiring you right now? What has you curious?
Well, over the last 7 years, when I launched and ran and grew a social impact tech startup, what really became very clear to me was, frankly, the barriers that face social entrepreneurs and the hurdles. And it feels somewhat impossible. I actually think if you look around, you see incredible social entrepreneurs who are really getting burnt out. There's a lot of talk about investment, but the opportunities to really grow and scale and get investment become quite challenging. And the gap between the rhetoric and what's actually being invested is quite large. So given that, I actually am really interested in tackling some of those systemic barriers around access to capital. And I have a few different ways I'm thinking about doing it, including potentially starting a fund. But also looking at some of the other kind of policy issues and networking issues and other barriers that people face.
Incredible, incredible. In this season, there's so much opportunity and so much need for innovation in terms of fund managers, investment theses, investment committees, with people that are thinking differently about how capital should flow. So remarkable. I give thanks for your leadership. So my next question is, what challenges and barriers are you facing in your work? And what are some of the approaches that you and your colleagues are taking in terms of responding to these challenges and barriers?
So personally, one thing that really I came to understand much better in when I was trying to raise my own capital in my own first investment round was the actually, Victor, the barriers to me were quite remarkable. So I'm certainly highly privileged. I'm white. I have an Ivy League education, US and Canadian passports right now. And I thought I would be able to leverage those in my network and my passion for social impact. And how hard could it be? And frankly, it was just really, probably other than childbirth, the most challenging thing I've ever done. The barriers can't be that hard. I had an incredible partner who was willing to support me for a couple of years while I did this. We can't, not everybody has that. And so that's really what's top of mind for me is like, how do we think differently about, especially those early stages? There's so many incredible entrepreneurs with ideas and getting them off the ground, taking time off work, going without a salary is just really, it's frankly impossible. So that very entry point is really what I'm interested in is how do we support people to be able to get things off the ground?
Incredible. Thank you. I appreciate that. So especially the candor and vulnerability, and obviously resilience in terms of this work. So my next question is, do you have a set of key priorities right now in your work?
Um, I've done a lot of work all over the world, and the two companies I launched and ran were both remote first from the very beginning. And actually, what I'm really interested in now is turning back to more place-based work. I did a lot of work in kind of community organizing and community development, and my degree is in urban planning and urban studies. And I'm here in Toronto. I think there's an incredible laboratory and opportunity here for post-pandemic resilience and building back, and frankly, a very different and more equitable way. So that's what is top of mind for me in terms of priorities is going local. I've met amazing people from all over the world and all different backgrounds here, and I'm really looking forward to digging in more locally with a team here.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for that. So my next question is, how do you feel about the future of how capital flows in Canada? Obviously, there's a social finance fund, there's impact investing, there's community finance, there's sustainable finance movements, and sometimes these terms are used interchangeably. But how do you feel about this work and the future of it in Canada?
So, Victor, I moved to Canada 2 months before the Social Finance Fund was announced, right? And so I thought, wow, this is perfect. Like, well, when we're ready for, I had just closed a round, and I thought when we're ready for our next round, the capital will be there. And then, as you know, things progressed a little slower than everybody would have liked. But I do think we're at a tipping point right now. I think there's a tremendous opportunity. And what I'm thinking about is how do we leverage this opportunity so when that 700 million or however many millions eventually gets invested, it's not just all gone, but we're building new infrastructure for a different type of growth in social finance afterwards. Frankly, I think all public finance should be social finance. I don't understand why we would be giving tax breaks to businesses who are not looking at issues like living wage jobs, affordable housing, environmental factors. It's public money, and it should be going to public benefit.
I couldn't agree more. The public are ultimately the shareholders. So I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for your candor. So my next question is, and it's my second last question, what is your ultimate goal, and what does success look like and feel like to you and your colleagues?
I'm really interested in building institutions that are examining the flow of capital, power, products, and services in a very different way, from every aspect, from where you bank to where your vendors come from to who you sell to how you sell. I think like deconstructing everything and really thinking hard about a lot of the kind of operational issues that we take for granted is really important. Obviously, there's always a balance there. You're not always going to find service providers that maybe match your values on every single aspect, but really doing as much as possible and having a community of people that support each other in that, I think, is really key. And in order to do that, I think we need to really lift up expertise that has a background and experience in social impact from every. So I'm looking at, building and have started to build a community of practitioners that have, CFO experience, but understand how your financial targets need to align really closely with your social outcome targets. Looking at tech providers who are thinking about things like ethical AI and privacy and security and human-centered design from the forefront, and equitable design. So every aspect of the businesses as well as the systems that support them.
That's remarkable. Thank you. So my last question, do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action for our listeners and our viewers?
One thing I've noticed, just again, I'll be quite upfront and honest with you. It's hard to break in Canada, especially in this field. It's so I have found it challenging to really build the kind of community that I would like to. And I think things now I'm feeling much better about it. But there's so much incredible talent that's always landing here in Canada, and that's what's, I think, tremendously exciting and part of what makes Canada so unique. So I hope we can all collectively continue to open doors for other people and pay it forward, and learn from people who are just arriving as well.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. We have to lift as we rise, and I think if we're not lifting while we rise, there's something intrinsically wrong with that. So once again, I appreciate your candor, your vulnerability, and all the wisdom that you shared in this call or this conversation. And as always at
Oh.
Setsi, we close the way we began. By acknowledging our creator, by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands we're on, we acknowledge all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Thank you so much, Natasha, for all that you do for so many and your remarkable thought leadership and practitionership in this remarkable ecosystem. Thank you.